What's up, Collector Squad? I'm Austin, and we're back with another video today, and this will be the first in a series called Fresh Reads that we're going to be doing, where we take books or comics that we've recently read and we review them and discuss them with you. So starting out today, we're going to be starting this new series with Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, which is the first in a series of books and comics from the High Republic for Star Wars. And I got to tell you, I went into this very cautiously optimistic because this is a time period 200 years before Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, that is very much unexplored. So it's a very brave undertaking for them to go this way with really kind of new characters and a new story that we hadn't seen much of before. Because if you're a Star Wars reader, as you probably know, since Disney took over, it's really been focused on the books and the comics and the time periods from the movies and the shows that we really already know. So going into this with kind of a fresh slate, again, it's very much of a risk, but I very much think that risk paid off. So like I said, we're 200 years before Episode 1, and we dive in, and I feel like right off the bat that the stakes were really, really high, which is great. I felt like it was an awesome way to start the story. It got me invested early, and then the writing, again, by Charles Soule just really took over, and I stayed invested the whole way through. It's amazing really getting to see the Jedi in this time period. Again, it's called the High Republic, so the Jedi were very much at their height of power, and they were just able to do amazing feats in this book, which you'll see, and I will not spoil at this time. But it was incredible to see them when they actually had, it seemed like, full access to the Force, as opposed to in the prequel trilogy where Palpatine really had blinded the Jedi and blinded them with the dark side. So it was very refreshing to see the Jedi in this light, and there's a lot of amazing Jedi characters and other characters too in the book, but I feel like it's very Jedi focused and kind of branches off in different directions where you get to learn about several different Jedi. And again, like I said, I became very invested in their stories and can't wait to see in what direction they go in. And then to counter the Jedi and the Republic were the new villains, the Nile. And I feel like they are really, really cool. I wasn't sure about them at first. If you watched any of the kind of introductory videos or trailers or anything like that, you heard them say they're kind of like pirates / Vikings. And it was very interesting just kind of learning about their hierarchy and their leader and how they operate and what motivates them. And they're a pretty brutal group of people. And again, it was very exciting throughout the story being able to learn about them and to really kind of get the direction and the story that the High Republic's going to go. Because again, I mentioned there's going to be several books, there's going to be several comics, and everything was just really set up to see how all of that branches off. And that kind of leads me into my last part of the review. Again, I'm going non-spoiler here, that there's a lot of cliffhangers at the end. There's several things with different characters and again, things that happen that really kind of set off the branching points of this story. And again, I'm all in. I'm invested. I want to read the comics. I want to read the rest of the books. We'll be doing more reviews like this. And then on top of the reviews in a lot of these videos, I'm actually going to do a section at the end too that is a spoiler section. So right now, as you can see, I was very kind of brief with the review. I don't want to spoil anything if you want to read the book, but now I will enter into a section where I talk about a lot of the things I liked about the book, and we'll be talking about some spoilers. So if you don't want anything spoiled, now is the time that you want to tune out. All right, guys, so diving into some of the specifics that actually happened in the book, we have to start with the Great Disaster, where the Legacy Run is going through hyperspace and has to actually dodge a Nile ship, which in turn rips it apart, and pieces of the Legacy Run start coming out of hyperspace and all these different systems, where we start with the Hetzel system, where pieces start coming out of hyperspace, going at super high speeds, like light speed, and they're going to cause great destruction and kill billions of people. So the Jedi have to come in and help in several different ways, but I have to start out with Avar Kriss and the amazing Force ability she's able to use, where she's able to actually connect all of the Jedi to where they can all work together. And ultimately, at the end of kind of the Hetzel disaster, there's a Tabana gas container that's actually headed toward the sun, and all the Jedi have to link together to where they can all force push that tank of gas away from the sun, which is an incredible feat. Again, that I mentioned, it's awesome to see the Jedi at this height of power to where they're able to do these amazing things together. And this is just one of those examples, and Avar Kriss is front and center on the cover. She's an awesome character. And speaking of her, I really liked seeing her relationship with Elzar Mann as well start to develop over the course of the book, because as they try to figure out how they can stop these emergencies from happening in space, she chooses Elzar as her partner, who they've known each other and been friends since they were Padawans. And he is a really cool character to where he's still a Jedi Knight but wants to be a master, and he explores all these Force abilities where we actually see he's able to make it rain later in the story. But he's explores all these different abilities to where he really kind of pushes the limits of the Jedi, which actually kind of gets him in trouble sometimes. But the fact that he's curious and wants to really push his limits and figure out what he can do is really exciting. And I think we're going to see some great things from him and Avar Kriss as the story goes on in these other books and comics and things like that. So moving on to some of the other characters that I really liked, Bell Zettifar and Loden Greatstorm. As soon as their story started, which actually kind of started back on Hetzel Prime as well, because they got boots on the ground and actually were trying to help against these marauders that were trying to steal this ship, and actually started shooting at people, and it just got very chaotic. So I was invested in them from the start. There was the ongoing thing of Loden Greatstorm, who's the master, trying to teach his apprentice, Bell Zettifar, how to actually jump out of ships or from high heights and actually catch himself with the Force without dying. So it was kind of a runner throughout the story that I thought was pretty hilarious, but ended up being very important in the end, as we found out, because at the end, Bell has to actually jump out of a ship and save the Blythe girl from that family who was kidnapped by the Nile. So seeing that story kind of develop and their relationship, I'm very invested in Loden Greatstorm and Bell Zettifar. And by the way, one of the coolest things about Bell to me is I love it when characters have like a pet of some sort. And he ends up getting a pet named Ember, who is a charhound. It can actually like breathe fire and stuff like that. So I hope they kind of stay together as this story goes on, because that was really cool to me, and I loved seeing a Jedi actually have a pet, which is something that I can't really remember seeing anywhere else. And then with Loden Greatstorm, that's one of the big cliffhangers at the end of the book that I mentioned in the review, that he gets captured by Marchion Ro when he's trying to save the Blythe family, and he's got him in this torture chamber where there's 7 other prisoners with him that are periodically being shocked by Marchion Ro's ship, which blocks off Loden from the Force. It's just a really kind of crazy, interesting twist at the end. And supposedly Marchion Ro has this diabolical plan, and he needed a Jedi for it, but we don't really know what that plan is yet. So again, great cliffhanger with him, because Loden Greatstorm is one of my favorite characters, and I hope he ends up being okay, doesn't fall to the dark side. I don't know what's going to happen with that, so it should be very, very interesting to see. And speaking of Marchion Ro, who ends up kind of being the leader of the Nile, his story was really, really cool, because it started out like he just really didn't have a lot of control. You're learning about the hierarchy of the Nile, how they operate. There's 3 Tempests, and the leader of those 3 Tempests work together with the Eye, who is Marchion Ro. And again, he doesn't really seem like he has a lot of control, but we find at the end he's been kind of puppeteering and manipulating all the events of the book. And he really tricks the Republic and the Jedi with a huge battle where his Kassav, who is one of the Tempest leaders, he kind of leaves him out to dry against the Republic. And that's a huge battle where Marchion Ro ends up giving their ships the power to kind of jump in and out of hyperspace in the battle, which becomes very chaotic. And Skier, who is a Trandoshan Jedi, again, one of the characters I'm actually pretty invested in, even though he was not in this book a whole lot. It looks like he's going to be in the comics quite a bit, so we'll be doing reviews and discussions on those as well. But Skier actually loses his arm and then loses his best friend in that fight too, again, just amongst all of the chaos in space with all the ships jumping around. And that was just a crazy scene that I thought was very well written and kind of went back and forth, and you saw kind of the ebb and tide of battle. So the last thing that I kind of want to talk about is this whole thing was building up to the Starlight Beacon being kind of the symbol of the Republic out in the Outer Rim. And that was kind of the whole point of the start of the book too, is the Republic getting out into the Outer Rim and having a Jedi presence and a Republic presence. And we see that actually happen at the end of the book. And it kind of ends with one of these, it's a ceremony with kind of dedicating the Starlight Beacon and everything like that. But we see Elzar Mann, who ends up being by himself after Avar Kriss leaves him, and he has this terrible Force vision where he sees just pain and suffering with the Jedi. And again, one of those cliffhangers that I was talking about that I can't wait to see kind of where that leads. Obviously, it's very ominous, but they just kind of leave it at that and leave him in great pain with this vision that he's had. So I can't wait to see where this story goes. Like I said, I'm going to be doing some of the comics featuring Skier as one of the main characters very soon. We'll be talking about those, but we'll be talking about the other novels, more comics that are coming out. I just can't wait to dive into this. I just thought this was such a great start to this series of the High Republic, and can't wait to discuss it and talk about it with you. So if you can, just let me know if you've read the book. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. What were some of your favorite parts? What were some of your favorite characters? I would love to hear your opinion. And if you haven't read the book yet, hopefully you kind of stopped middle of the video after my review, and I'd love to hear what you thought about the review, but then too, I'd love to hear what you think after you've actually read the book. So again, comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell. Again, this is a new series we're doing. We do a lot of other collectible videos like statues and Pokemon cards and all kinds of just pop culture type things. So if you're not a subscriber yet, we would love to have you. If you already are a subscriber, thank you so much. We're just loving doing the channel and look forward to just continue to build it in the future. So we love having new people join, and we hope to hear from you very, very soon.